Τη συνέντευξη που θα δείτε την πήρα από τον Ρόμπερτ Στάνλι πριν 2 χρόνια και κάτι μέρες, δηλαδή αρχές Φλεβάρι του 2017. Με τα προβλήματα υγείας που μου προέκυψαν λίγο μετά τη συνέντευξη την ίδια χρονιά, αλλά και με τα μετέπειτα τρεχάματα το 2018, η μετάφραση αυτής της συνέντευξης πήγε πολύ πίσω. Μόλις τώρα κατάφερα να φτιάξω το ηχητικό σε βίντεο και να το τιτλίσω. Τα λέω όλα αυτά γιατί θα παρατηρήσετε πως στην αρχή της συνέντευξης τον ρωτάω για την εκλογή του Τραμπ, που τότε ήταν πρόσφατη, αλλά και για να εξηγήσω τους λόγους που παρουσιάζω αυτή τη συνέντευξη τόσο ετεροχρονισμένα. Τη θεωρώ αρκετά αξιόλογη ώστε να παρουσιαστεί. Σε κάποιο σημείο θα τον ακούσετε να αναφέρεται στη σχιζοφρένεια και σε αυτά που έμαθε από έναν άνθρωπο που δούλεψε για χρόνια στον τομέα της ψυχικής υγείας. Ναι, αναφερόταν στον Μαρζίνσκι, τις διαπιστώσεις του οποίου σας έχω παρουσιάσει σε 2 συνέντευξεις που του έχω πάρει ήδη. Σε αυτή τη συζήτηση πραγματευτήκαμε πολλά και ενδιαφέροντα. Πολλά που ίσως δεν είναι για όλους. Εννοώ ότι κάποια από αυτά που συζητήθηκαν μπορεί να βρουν αντίθετους πολλούς φίλους που είναι θρησκευάμενοι. Εσείς φίλοι μου, θα ήθελα να καταλάβετε ότι ο καθένας έχει το δικαίωμα να επιλέγει τι θα πιστέψει και πώς θα διεργαστεί μέσα από τα ερεθίσματα που εισπράττει από τον κόσμο μας, και ο καθένας επίσης έχει το αναφέρετο δικαίωμα να εκφράζει ελεύθερα την κοσμοθεωρία του, χωρίς αυτό να σημαίνει ότι προσπαθεί είτε εκείνος είτε εγώ που τον παρουσιάζω να πείσει ή να προπαγανδίσει κάτι. Θα ήταν αξιέπαινο λοιπόν αν καταφέρουν οι διαφωνούντες να ακούσουν με ηρεμία τις οπτικές του ανθρώπου όπως αναπτύσσει, χωρίς φυσικά αυτό να σημαίνει ότι θα τις ενστερνιστούν κιόλας. Ένδειξη πολιτισμού είναι να σεβόμαστε αυτά με τα οποία διαφωνούμε αρκετά, ώστε να μην καταφεύγουμε σε ύβρις ή απαξία στο πεδίο σχολιασμών, και αν θέλουμε να εκφράσουμε κάποια διαφωνία μας να το κάνουμε με επιχείρημα και ευπρεπείς διατυπώσεις. Η ύβρις δεν είναι επιχείρημα, σέβομαι δεν σημαίνει συμφωνώ. Το να σέβεται κανείς αυτό με το οποίο διαφωνεί, με το οποίο συμφωνεί, δεν είναι ανδραγάθημα. Η μαγιά είναι να σέβεται κανείς αυτό με το οποίο διαφωνεί. Τέλος, στο βίντεο θα ακούτε κατά καιρούς παρασιτικούς ήχους στο υπόβαθρο, και αυτό οφειλόταν στην κακή σύνδεση που είχα μέσω Skype με την Ιαπωνία. Καλή συνέχεια.
Φίλοι μου, μαζί μας σήμερα ο γνωστός και προσφυλής στην αμερικανική συνωμοσιολογική κοινότητα, Robert Stanley. Hi Robert and welcome to my channel.
Hi Vicky, thanks for having me.
Instead of me introducing you to the Greek audience, I think it's better that you tell us a little about yourself, and while you're at it, give us your website too. It's Unicus Magazine, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Unicus is spelled U-N-I-C-U-S, magazine.com, that's Latin for unique.
Yeah, right.
Unicus. Anyway, yeah, I'm 57 years old now. I was born and raised in Malibu, California.
Oh, we're the same age.
Yeah, lucky me. So I'm currently living in Hong Kong. I've been to 58 countries so far. So we'll see how far I go from here. But I've been interested in paranormal research since 1985, when I had a close encounter with what the Gnostics call archons.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people are familiar with that these days. I had no idea that's what they were called, or that anybody else knew about them. Back in 1985, when I first encountered them, very few people were ever even talking about this. I mean, the internet didn't really exist, and the few people I did talk to about it, when I explained what had happened, they just looked at me like I was nuts. So
yeah, well, I had a similar experience, but I had no idea what the archons were back then
Yeah.
either.
What year was that?
Oh, that was like 1987, I think.
Oh, around the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that figures.
First off, although you don't live in the US right now, you're still American, so I'd like your take on Trump's election and the general situation with protests and riots sweeping the states.
Sure. That's all orchestrated, obviously. This, to me, if you take a step back, and for me, I don't see it just as left and right or conservative and liberal. I see it as people who are healthy and not infected by the Archon parasite, as opposed to those who are infected by the Archon parasite and are being manipulated to do harm to themselves or others. So, to be very brief here, my understanding is that the Archon feed off of our negative energy that's released when we harm ourselves or others. Our DNA is always emitting a certain frequency of light, very similar to a laser light.
Yep.
Okay, so, but when we're traumatized, either through fear or physical injury or anger, that our body emits a different frequency of light, which they consume. So much like the movie The Matrix, where they showed us being the battery for the machines, that was just a metaphor for what is really going on here, which is we are constantly being provoked to do harm to ourselves and others, so that we will give the Archon the energy they need to survive here.
Is that what you call the Luciferian agenda?
Yes, that's part of it. I mean, see, some people think there's a difference between the parasite and the Luciferians, and there really isn't, because, and this is where my research is unique. It wasn't my idea to get involved in this, but it turns out that shortly after having my experience in 1985, a friend of mine gave me a book that his parents owned, because we were talking, and he goes, "Well, Robert, I think you should read this book." Now, he hadn't even read it, but for some reason, he was being guided to give me this book.
Yeah.
Okay, it turns out the book was written by a friend of my father's, who they had studied yoga together back in the 50s. Now, this gentleman's name is Norman Paulson, and he wrote this book. Originally, it was called Sunburst, The Return of the Ancients. And he talked about in there a lot about the builders of worlds and how this world originally was a paradise, and that at some point in the very distant past, Lucifer, also known by various names such as Enki, Ea, Loki, etc.
Satan.
Right? Well, no. Okay, I'll explain it right now since you brought it up. Satan is one of his sons. He is also known as Marduk or Ra.
Oh,
he is currently in charge here because Lucifer, Enki, is off this world. As far as I know, he will be returning. Sitchin, he believed that Enki, he knew Enki was Lucifer. And he wrote those books are his interpretation. He was essentially working for Enki, Lucifer.
Right.
And I don't agree with his interpretation.
That's the feeling I got.
I know he was. Pardon me?
That's the feeling I got from Sitchin too.
Well, here's the thing. He went to the London School of Economics, which is owned by the Rothschild family, at the same time that George Soros was going to the London School of Economics. So they were classmates. And you see what George Soros has screwed up the world pretty badly on behalf of the Rothschild.
There.
Sorry, just say that again. I didn't hear you.
No coincidence there, I said.
Yes, I know you're being facetious. Anyway, yeah, both of those gentlemen work for the Rothschilds, who are clearly part of the Luciferian empire. So now let's go back to what I was saying before. Originally, this was a paradise planet, and Lucifer's family, not from Nibiru, but actually from the belt of Orion. He comes from a royal family. He was a prince. and he was a divine builder of worlds, just like the rest of his family. As gods and goddesses, that's what they did. They were creators. At some point, according to the book written by Norman Paulson, he says that information, what I'm going to tell you now, allegedly was given to him, Norman, by peaceful human extraterrestrials in the 1950s. Part of what they told him was that Lucifer had gone insane, that he and his crew, who were builders of worlds, ventured into a place that was off limits. It was called a forbidden zone. I don't know, it doesn't say in there what that is.
Yeah.
Let's just say it's a black hole. So just for argument's sake, let's just say he ventured into a black hole thinking that as a god, a divine being, that he and his crew would be okay. They were curious.
Yeah.
So in that regard, his ego definitely got the best of him, and that was not a smart thing to do. But they went in there, and they were so badly traumatized by the experience that they suffered multiple personality disorder. And
so he went psycho.
well, actually, yes, he became what do they call it? Psychopathic. That was the beginning of the illness that we would call psychopathic or psychopathy. But he and his crew also accidentally created thought forms that were parasitic. Okay, he's the one. So this is why, I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, but there's a bit of delay here. This is why he's known as the father of the Archon. Lucifer is called the father of all lies, but he's also called the father of the Archons, because he and his crew accidentally created them, and they found their way back out of the forbidden zone. And when they did, they were completely different, and they become, instead of builders of worlds, they had become destroyers of worlds. And when he finally got back to his family, they realized that he was unfit to rule at any time. I mean, think about it, if he was born, the firstborn prince of the family, he would naturally ascend to the throne at some point, right?
Right.
When his father passed on. But they looked at him and they said, wow, you're ill, you're mentally ill, or however they called it. And they said, we cannot, in all good consciousness, it would be irresponsible for us to let you become king at any point until you get well. And he said, well, he didn't see it that way because he was crazy, or he is crazy, or ill. And he said, okay, screw you guys, I'll start my own empire, which he did. The problem is, here's the big problem. Not only did that was the beginning of a civil war, because he didn't want to live peacefully, coexist with his family. He kept thinking, well, those guys cheated me, and I have to go. If I destroy them, I can just take over by force. So that's really a big, huge problem. That has not been resolved. And eventually he took over this world. Our entire solar system became part of his empire.
Yeah. Is he reptilian, and how are the reptilians involved and or connected with this agenda?
Of course, but look, let's be clear here. All reptilians are not bad. Just like all humans are not bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so come on. I hear this a lot. It's not that simple. Enki or Lucifer is he's an amphibious being who's known also as Oannes. He came out of the ocean because that's where he prefers to be, is under the water. He's an aquatic humanoid.
Yeah. Okay,
it's also what I've read about him is that he's a very mysterious guy, because you never know which personality you're going to get with him. But he is a shapeshifter, apparently, just like his son. One of his sons is in charge. I told you, Satan. He's known as Marduk. He's known as Ra. Lucifer had multiple sons. Okay, the one that we know as a Thoth, you would have called him Hermes in Greece.
Yeah.
But he was also known as the name Mercury to the Romans.
Yeah, well,
and many other names.
It's the same persona.
I understand that, but he was also a son of Enki.
Okay.
He had more than one son, and before he left, before Enki Lucifer left here, there were libraries around the world that allowed us humans to have access to a certain amount of knowledge. But when he left and he put Marduk, Satan, whatever you want to call him, in charge, that brother was very egotistical, and he said to his other brother, he said, "I'm destroying all the libraries, and I'm going to hide it from the humans so we can more easily control them."
The Library of Alexandria is one big example of destruction.
Yes, but they were all over the planet, is my point. Okay, and that was not the doing of Thoth or Hermes, whatever you call him. He wrote thousands. He and his he had a lot of helpers, but he actually created those libraries for us, humans. But that all changed when Lucifer or Enki left one of his sons in charge, who was, like I said, you got to understand too that these people are all multiple personalities. They're all shapeshifters. They can project or promote themselves under various names, and they do. Multiple names over multiple times in multiple cultures. It's very complicated or convoluted when you try and explain who these people are.
Yeah. Devil is another name for Satan, what people consider as Satan anyway. And that's deriving from the Greek word diabolos, from the verb diavalo, which means the one who deceives and slanders.
Yeah, well, and they do. But see, we're not talking about one entity. We're talking about a whole bunch of people that are used to be divine beings. I mean, actually, Lucifer and his immediate crew were divine beings that went completely mad. But once they took over,
what about Jesus then? Was he mad? Because all he preached was love. Was that a...
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was, but everything about that was taken by the Roman Church. The Romans took that.
Distorted it, I know.
Yes, right. That's why they killed all the Gnostics and destroyed the library at Alexandria.
And later on, they persecuted the Cathars, which were part of the...
Among others. Yes, they killed millions and millions of people and destroyed all the... But again, that was all done by the one who's in charge here is Satan.
Yeah. It's Lucifer, so Lucifer is psychotic. I want you to tell me, how does schizophrenia relate to the archon energy feeding? Do you consider schizophrenia to be merely a chemical imbalance or a psychological dysfunction distorting the brain function?
No, of course not. I've done quite a bit of research on this, and I've done interviews with various people, including one guy that works in the mental health profession in America. He actually contacted me, and he said absolutely these things, there are entities external to the people that suffer from schizophrenia. He had found that out the hard way. After working with schizophrenics for many years, he realized...
I heard that,
right?
Psychiatrist.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, so in any way, here's the thing. The mental health profession, when a person is infected by these parasites, this is what they are called as schizophrenic and or psychopathic. The church, the Catholic Church, would call that possession. Now, they're very careful not to just take anybody who's schizophrenic and say, oh, they're possessed by demons. They need to be exorcised. Because legally, that's a big issue. That's a huge problem when you do that. They're liable legally for certain things that once they do that, they have to cover themselves legally. But what I know for a fact that they've stated this publicly is that the number of exorcisms has skyrocketed, and they've actually recruited quite a few and trained quite a few new exorcists.
Yeah. Well, the voices of schizophrenics here, I think it's those parasites, the archons.
Well, that's what the Muslims believe, except they call them jinn. They don't call them archon.
And the Christians call them demons.
Demons or unclean spirits, correct.
Yeah. Simon Parks says that the light people see when they die is a trap, leading them back to another reincarnation, that they're using some kind of technology which also keeps us in the matrix. And according to Ike, Saturn and the moon plays a big part on that trap. Do you agree with all that?
Well, yeah, it actually goes a little deeper than that. Let's see, a couple years ago, scientists, astrophysicists found a belt of energy that is not the Van Allen belts. They found a grid of energy around the planet, our planet, and they have no idea what it's for. They just said, wow, that looks like something out of Star Trek. So there is a huge energy field around the planet that is the soul trap. And now, so that prevents most people from leaving after they pass over. Or even in the astral body, it's really hard to get away because what happens, too far anyway, because what happens is that we're being watched. And when we leave our body, especially when we're physically dying, we're not just going into the light, we're always confronted by these so-called guides that then manipulate or convince us that we need to go back and continue doing whatever we're supposedly haven't done yet.
So what do I do, for example, if I don't want to reincarnate? Now that's a big question, isn't it?
It is. Now, allegedly there's a way to get out, and that was written by a friend of mine called Wes Penray. And you can access that on my website.
I wanted to ask you about his papers.
Okay, well, he wrote an article recently, and I have it posted on my website, Avoiding the Death Trap, and that's the first link on my articles section. You can read that. You can just read that there, and it's free, like most everything else on my website.
I want you to elaborate on this a little.
Go ahead.
I think his papers led you to deeper insights. Am I wrong?
No, you're correct. It was late 2014, anyway, somewhere in 2014 is when I just accidentally found his work and I started reading it. And I actually started on the fourth paper, and it was all about Lucifer, and I was like, I just couldn't believe what I was reading. And so I eventually wrote to him, and I started, sharing some of my experiences, and eventually we became friends, and I worked together on a few projects. But I mean, and I'm not even sure everything he's written is accurate. Obviously, we can't prove a lot of this stuff. I mean, I should say that most of what we see in the field of UFO research and secret space program stuff, it's all speculation. Unfortunately, because we don't have access to any hard information, and that again is by design. First of all, we're not supposed to know this.
Yeah.
And if we have any information, it cannot be validated or proved, because that would be dangerous. It would go counter to the Luciferian agenda, and so that information is just isn't available.
Yeah. So. Many people say that all the UFO sightings and everything, all that has to do with demonic entities. Do you agree with that?
The majority of it, yes. And our government, the U.S. government, knows that. There's a very good book by Nick Redfern on that subject.
So are there no good guys in space?
Of course there are. No, I think, look, I think, like it says in the Bible, that 2/3 of the angelic kingdom has not fallen. They're still healthy, okay? Their spirit has not been broken.
So they are benevolent beings.
Yes, they're still divine. Their consciousness is still intact. Whereas, and I don't think that's throughout, I'm talking about our immediate part of the cosmos here, okay? I'm not talking about all of creation. I'm talking about the part that the immediate part that we're concerned with, our galaxy.
Aren't the benevolents trying to liberate us somehow, or what?
Of course. Well, it's not even a liberation, Vicky. What it is, from my perspective, it's a healing that's taking place.
Yeah.
So the original intent behind something like Christ, his teachings, was to help us heal our consciousness by forgiving others, things like that. Okay, those are very good. And
I think love is one of the best vehicles for spiritual enlightenment and ascension, not ascending like the New Agers mean.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah, ascending spiritually, I mean.
I agree with that, but you know, it doesn't require religion.
No,
a religion to. I mean, anybody can practice love or forgiveness and other things that are healing.
Religion is basically manipulating human consciousness.
Well, that's what the Gnostics said.
Exactly.
That's what they said, and that's one of the reasons they were completely plowed under like that, just like genocide. I mean, that's, you know, the thing is, the Nag Hammadi texts are just one of thousands
of drop in the ocean of
knowledge. Yeah, exactly. So we don't know exactly what they knew, and to speculate as though, to act like that's the full explanation is just absurd to me. I think it's kind of just nutty. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I do disagree with some interpretations about Sophia, the Earth.
Yes, I do too.
Keep in mind that Gaia is the actual Greek word for the Earth.
Right.
Sophia was a name given to her because Sophia in Greek means wisdom.
Well, yeah, and I know that they try to blame the demiurge on her.
Demiurge
right?
is also a Greek word, and it means creator.
Well, look, Lucifer has a mother. She created him, actually, out of a virgin birth.
Yeah.
She did that. She created him out of a virgin birth. He was a very unique, very powerful, very intelligent, very beautiful being. Unfortunately, like I said, there was an accident. I mean, well, it could have been avoided, but my understanding, look, we can't prove it, but it makes sense because we know for a fact that when humans are traumatized, they suffer, their consciousness breaks down, right? We know you can through mind control, this is how they do it. They traumatize a person until they suffer multiple personality disorder. Okay, and now as far as the mental parasites, I've actually seen them, other people have too. What the Gnostics described actually was amazing to me when I first read it. I was like, wow, somebody else has actually seen these things, because the way they described it, I totally recognize that they look like amoeba. I think is a better description, and I have pictures of that on my website as well.
You do have pictures, and I'm going to put them in the video.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I mean, and obviously those things can shapeshift too. They're not physical, but they do exist.
They're non-biological, some people say.
Well, yes, because here's the thing. We know in history, like the Tibetan monks, they have the ability to create a thought form that is external to themselves, and that thought form can actually be seen and interact on our level. Like it's almost like a ghost, okay? But it's still the reason is because our physical body is constantly receiving signals that are non-physical. A lot of what happens to us is non-physical. Our consciousness is non-physical. I mean, look, since we're on the subject, let me just run this by you really quick. You probably heard it, but it's important. Consciousness.
I also want you to focus on the awakening of the DNA.
Okay, but look, here's something important. Everything that we know as physical started as waves of consciousness. Those waves then slowed down and became energy. They slowed down even more and they became matter. But it all started with a consciousness. If you want to look at it in biblical terms, in the beginning there was the Word.
Yeah.
Okay, right? Now
Logos.
The Word. Oh, just a minute. The word is a vibration. It's a wave.
Makes sense.
When you speak a word, it is a vibratory wave.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yes.
But you can't do that unless you have to think before you speak, right?
Right.
Okay, so consciousness first, then comes the word. But as the word slows down, it manifests into what we think of as physicality. But they're all connected. It's all coming from the same source, and there is no disconnect for the. In reality, nothing is disconnected. Science knows this. They call it entanglement.
Yeah.
All right?
I think you have articulated that beautifully. It makes total sense to me anyway.
Well, thank you. I hope a lot of people haven't already tuned out just because we were talking about religion.
No.
No, but here's the thing. Unfortunately, when we speak about politics or religion, people tend to, if they want to hear, in other words, if they don't agree with you, they'll immediately just close their mind to it. And this is not, look, I'm not condemning anybody. We've been conditioned to behave that way because it serves the Luciferian agenda. This is how they keep us divided.
And trapped in certain belief systems.
Correct. Which benefits them, not us.
Which creates polarity and division.
Yes. And right, and this is part of how they control us, have been controlling and manipulating us, and more importantly, this is how we are quarantined, because part of our nature as divine beings, I see us as seeds of light. Our souls are like seeds of light in a garden, growing. Now, we're all connected unless we choose not to be. And part of the problem with this infection of our consciousness is we choose to shut down for various reasons. We agree to disconnect from one another, become divided. And we're still connected, but it's like, okay, so on the internet, if you could easily unplug, or you could be connected only with like a dial-up modem where you can't get access to all of everything that's like, that's everything that's out there. So, but if you have a very broadband connection, high speed, whatever, broadband, you can get all kinds of information flowing, right? The same is true for us and it has everything to do with our DNA. Because here's what we know. Here's what they've told us anyway. DNA actually it shuts down, it constricts, it winds very tightly when we're angry or fearful. The negative emotions actually cause our DNA to shut down.
And lower the vibrations.
Well, it means that the energy or information is flowing much, 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 much slower. The more angry and fearful we get, the connectivity goes down, down, down. Direct correlation. Whereas if we're happy and loving and healthy, yes, all that. Then our DNA begins to unwind, and the information or energy flows through it better until we have a very good connection.
Like you said to George Norrie, our DNA is an antenna.
Somewhat, yes, it is. Yeah, right. Yeah. And it doesn't need. Here's the funny thing about what a lot of the people are talking in this New Age thing. It's like we have to ascend to, we need more strands of DNA, and I don't think so. I think we were put here in a very divine state. We just need to return to our healthy state, and then we inherently have qualities that have just been suppressed. Amazing things. We could do amazing things. I'm not talking about technology. I'm just saying we have abilities that have been suppressed for a very long time. And people call it supernatural or whatever, but I think it's actually quite normal.
Yeah, I get what you mean. What about the super wave? Is that going to do something to our DNA?
Well, yeah, it allows it to,
and our perceptions.
With the way it was shown to me, when I asked the divine ones that I feel connected to, I asked them, how are you going to resolve this problem? Because obviously we're, as humanity's having a very hard time. Most people aren't even aware of the problem yet, but that's changing. Anyway, when I asked, how's this going to be, what are they doing from their side? They showed me these waves of energy washing over the planet and waking people up. Now, I wasn't sure when that's going to happen, but apparently it has been happening in not just all at once either. It's been a gradual process. And you know, that's how healing works. It's like, okay, especially if you're really ill, you don't get it well overnight. Exactly. It takes time, right? True. And so, right, that's part of the protocol. That's part of the therapy. It takes time. And, you know, especially when you're dealing with something as difficult as this, you have to incrementally, let's just say it was, okay, so if you're on an antibiotic or something like that, sometimes you have to increase it gradually, otherwise your body will just shut down. And I feel this is the case for us, so a lot of people are dying.
Yeah.
Is that they can't handle it. They don't want it. They choose not to participate, so they just shut off. They just shut down and then leave, or they try and leave, because it's very uncomfortable for some people to have more and more and more connectivity and waking up and having no place to hide. I mean, this is to me, it's a little funny actually. I know it's not, but it's ironic that the more that the dark side, the entities, right, the harder they try to lie to us, the more they actually expose themselves. And the problem is they don't have a plan B. This is all they know. And so they're acting more and more desperate because they feel like if they lose control of us, they think they're going to die.
Yeah,
they're going to lose, right? They're going to lose their food source.
Lately, we are seeing that people are beginning to get more streetwise. Like, for example, the Podesta emails published by WikiLeaks opened another horrific can of worms, focusing on child abuse and sacrifice.
It's satanic,
of course,
it is satanic. Hey, look, I wrote that in my second book, Covert Encounters in Washington, D.C. Everything about Washington is Luciferian or satanic. Yeah, right. Same difference. It's the same thing, okay? Just different names. But it's the same.
I think most of the Western governments are blanketed with this dark energy anyway.
Of course, and I'll tell you why. All right, since you brought that up, is because after the flood that destroyed Atlantis, which that was Enki's doing. See, when he arrived here, let's just say it was Lemuria. Things were very peaceful and loving and beautiful. When he came here, he wiped out not only what was here in this world and changed it, but everything that was on the moon and Mars, etc. He definitely screwed up he and his people screwed up the entire solar system, changed it. And so we call that time, his rule was Atlantis. And it was global. It wasn't just an island in the Atlantic or Antarctic or whatever. It was an entire global civilization that was connected to the multiple planets that he dominates, that he and his people dominate here in the solar system.
Yeah.
Okay, so after the flood, he saved, look, from a biblical thing, they say it's Noah. It's actually much older than that. It's older than the Old Testament. It's like, I think it was Akkadian, but they call it Utnapishtim. It's in the Epic of Gilgamesh.
It's in the epic of the Greek mythology with the Dephkalion, we call it. That's a flood over there like thousands of years back, before Noah.
Right, but that was, so that was a comet that passed by, and it destroyed most of what Enki had built here. I mean, you know, here's the reason I mentioned Epic of Gilgamesh is because you can see in there that it was Enki that actually told Utnapishtim, Noah, that the flood was coming to build the boat. He's the one that preserved. He knew that everything was going to be destroyed because his parents told him. They said, look, you either destroy this mess you've made, you clean it up, or we're going to clean it up for you. And he said, okay, you go ahead, I'll stand back, whatever. But of course he lied, and he preserved a portion of what he had created here and on Mars, etc. And so after the devastation was supposed to clear everything out, then he rebuilt it. And so this is why Sir Francis Bacon calls America the New Atlantis. That's not just something he pulled out of his hat. He was talking about a real project, the rebuilding of Atlantis.
Speaking about Atlantis,
Yes.
I hear a lot lately about Atlantis being buried under the Antarctic. What do you think about that? What's your take on all this?
Again, that's pure speculation. But there's something buried under there for sure.
Something's going on over there, though. I mean, that's
Yeah,
not
but
speculation.
no, but it makes a lot. Look, it makes a lot of sense. It was Rand and
John Kerry went there. Like,
yeah, I know. There was some research prior to this, though. There were some researchers that had some pretty good ideas about it. They were called the Flemath people. They're a husband and wife. I forget, Rose and Rand Flemath. Yeah. Anyway, they wrote some books about it. It made a lot of sense. I mean, it is in the middle of the ocean. There is only one ocean on the planet. There isn't 7. It's all, and they all connect right there around the Antarctic. Now, I don't know what's under the ice, and anybody who claims that, as far as I know, they don't have any real solid evidence to prove it yet.
They're giving out bits of information.
I know, but again, this is we're speculating. We don't have any hard evidence. It's like everything else on this planet. They don't. The archons, the lords of this world, the overlords, do not want us to have too much information.
Exactly.
And they don't, and this is why they don't want us having contact with extraterrestrials that are benevolent, because they know that they are going to tell us what's going on. They've made it a very, very difficult thing. I mean, they've basically keeping us prisoner here, and they don't even want
quarantined, as you say.
Yeah, we're quarantined. We don't even get to have visiting rights with our extended family. It's criminal. The way they treat us is like slaves.
So
worse.
Prison Planet takes a new meaning, you know.
Well, it's not. And here's the thing: it's not new. This happened a long time ago, based on the way we count years. But the thing is, when the comet passed over, and it triggered an end of the last ice age. There was a huge flood all over the planet. Every culture has a different name for it, but everybody remembers it. Even in Malibu, where I grew up, the native people there, they say the first people were destroyed in the flood. Right. So that now you got to ask, well then where did everybody come from after the flood, right? And so they give you this story about, well, this goddess mated with the sky snake and created the humans.
Yeah.
Right? It's very convoluted. And again, they don't want us to know too much. Especially, they don't want to have anything that is considered valid. They don't want us to be able to validate anything. The analogy in the Bible is the Tower of Babel.
Yeah, that's right. But
they confused all of us.
I feel that despite of all the darkness around, we are making headway. We are.
Oh, of course.
Our consciousness is widening. I mean.
Absolutely. That's true. And they can't stop it.
And if we haven't got proper help from the benevolence, that's our doing. That's our achievement, in a way.
Well, no, I would disagree. They are helping us in ways that they don't take credit. A lot of times they help us very subtle. It's very subtle, and they don't advertise.
Yeah.
They don't need to be known. It's not like, oh, I'm from Ashtar Commando, I'm here to save you. No, they just do it, and they do it very discreetly. And there's a reason for it. It's because it's dangerous for them to come here and to interact with us, especially those of us that are ill. So they have to be very. It's like, look, think of it. If we're quarantined and we're sick, you know, when you see the way the doctors and the nurses, they go in, they don't just hang out with them. They go in there and they're very careful, and they wash afterwards, and they wear all these clothes and they take them off. It's like there's protocol. You can't just interact. You can't just interact with people that are sick.
That's right.
Without being very careful.
I want to go back to the superwave. Do you think
go ahead. Yeah.
that it is approaching? When do you expect it to hit home?
Okay, here, I'm glad. Thank you for bringing that up, because we didn't answer that question very well. So apparently it started picking up in 1987 to 2012. We were hit by numerous waves, and it did shift the consciousness dramatically.
It did.
Okay?
Even mine.
All right.
Even though I'm blonde.
Yeah. But everybody that survived that is a different person entirely as far as their consciousness and their DNA is concerned. It's much, much, much more open and healed. Well, we're a lot more healthy. Okay?
I totally agree with that.
We're stronger. Everything after everybody survived that. After 2012, actually, after 2012, it increased again, but more dramatically because they knew that those of us that survived could handle what comes next. So recently, even scientists are saying, wow, we're being hit by cosmic waves, sometimes 2 at a time from different directions. And they don't know what's causing it. Of course, they're only concerned, they're saying, well, this is making more earthquakes and volcanoes. Yeah, so what? I mean, we're still here, aren't we? Despite all that. The thing is, it is causing like an earthquake of their consciousness. Too. It's shattering these old paradigms that have been imposed on us, and that's why I told you the dark side is freaking out, because every time they try and trick us now, we're like,
we're on to them.
Yeah, you're such an idiot. God, I mean, it's so obvious. It's like, Pizzagate. Yeah, well, okay, now you can't put that back in the bottle. That genie's out, and people are saying, God, all these people are sick. They really are. They're sick, and
sick.
They're ruined. Their reputation is destroyed. Okay, which they deserve. But and now the question is, how do we deal with them? Putting them in prison is just a first step. That's not. What are we supposed to do? Drug them, castrate them? It's like, this is a really serious problem, because it affects everybody.
And it makes me sick too, to tell you.
Oh, of course. Well, it not only that, it actually makes the children very. Okay, so one of the things I learned was the reason Satanists do that to children is it's a way of infecting them with the parasite. It ensures that they
getting some power for themselves somehow.
Well, yes, of course they do, but it's not like they do that and let the kid go. They control them for the rest of their lives, because they are now infected. They now have multiple personality disorder. It's here's the thing.
They control it or they kill it.
Well, sometimes they do. I don't think they kill all of the children, but
no, not all of them, but many, I think.
Yes, far too many. I agree, but I'm telling you.
Do you think they're killing them to feed the archons, the demons?
Well, that's part of it, yes. But I'm trying to tell you, it's more than that. It's the way they breed. This is how they have to create new hosts for themselves.
Yeah.
And it's an insurance policy that they will continue to have a place to a host that they can inhabit going forward, okay? Because humans die, so but what are they going to do? So they infect the children, not all of them, but enough of them, that going forward, those children are going to, the ones they don't kill and eat, they will inhabit. They infect them.
Now that you say that, when I was reading The Antidote to Archons from your website, wow, I was so amazed, because without having done your research and your studies on these things, I had exactly the same feeling that we ought to control our thoughts and our emotions. We have to be very aware of our thoughts and our emotions, because not all our thoughts are originally ours.
This is true. And if we don't control our emotions, we will be controlled by them. And so that is a real danger. And they know this. They know how to do that. It's very simple. This is why the news is constantly designed to make us angry.
That's such an amazing part of your writings there in your website. I was amazed, really.
Well, one of the things let's go a little beyond that. What I offer to people, let's imagine this infection is a fire. So we don't want to pour gasoline on the fire. Obviously, it makes it bigger. Because some people say, "Oh, let's kill them, let's fight them." No, that would be pouring gasoline on the fire. So here's 3 things that people can do. What I suggest. It's not easy. Okay, it may sound simple, but trust me, it's very hard to do these things. All right, be calm. One of them is be calm, especially when people are acting crazy, because they are.
Telling a Greek to be calm with the situation here.
I understand. No, look, I understand. It's happening all over the world, though.
You cannot understand, Robert. You have to be living through this hell to understand. But you can imagine, I guess.
I can. I've only been to Greece once, but when I was there, I saw a lot of slogans that were painted on the walls that were full of bullet holes, and I asked the taxi driver, I said, what is that? And he said, oh, we had a revolution here, and some people died. And I'm like, oh.
When did you come to Greece?
That was in the 70s.
Oh, yeah, when we changed from the junta to democracy, supposedly.
Yeah. Beautiful, but I must say, Greece is beautiful. I felt very connected to the ancient ruins there. Beautiful people, love the food. I love this moussaka, I think you call it.
Well, now Greece is totally compromised.
I understand. I'm just saying, when I was there, that's what I felt.
Illuminati's symbols here and there. Propaganda, incredible propaganda. I mean, really, really.
Yes, I know. What they did to your banking system was criminal. In any case, look, the temple, Gnosis, is that how you say it? Gnosis? Gnosis. Do you understand what
Gnosis.
Am I saying it? Gnosis. Okay, so the temple there of those people, there's a direct parallel to what the temples that I found in Malibu.
Really?
Yes, it was Sir Arthur Evans who he purchased some artifacts from there that what we would call, Sitchin calls them cylinder seals. Well, I mean, that's what they're called, but he talks a lot about them in his books, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so it was the artifact of cylinder seals that actually led Sir Arthur Evans to the site of Gnosis, and that's why he started excavating there, because people told him, oh, that we found him over there. So he bought the property and started excavating.
Well, now, I think next time you come to Greece, I'll take you to Delphi. That will blow your mind.
Oh, yeah, I understand. Yes, I do. I get what you're saying. But the reason I bring that up, though, is because one of the artifacts that was given to me is a cylinder seal from Malibu. Yeah. And it belonged to a secret society in Malibu that was part of, I believe they came from Egypt.
Well, Egypt and Greece were totally connected. You know that.
I understand. Yes, I do. I've been to both places. But excuse me. The point I'm trying to make is the world has always been connected, and it's just the Archon have been trying to divide us up and think like everything is like a broken pot, and it's scattered in every direction. Right. But it's all connected. If you know how to connect it, it's all. But the thing is, the cylinder seal that I have, you can see pictures of it on my website at the article section under megalithic monuments of Malibu.
Yeah.
It's one of the artifacts. It's one of the artifacts in there. And when you roll it in wet clay, it actually is the belt of stars of Orion.
Wow.
It turns out the people I'm telling you about, the secret society who owned that, who created that, their name, it would be spelled in English Antap. It actually means House of Orion.
Right.
This took me a long time to figure this out. I mean, really, it's taken me almost 3 decades to even have this kind of conversation with you and show you these things. But what I'm trying to say is that the world has always been united, and all these cultures were well aware of each other. And in fact, as I said before, we're all family.
Exactly.
We've always been family. And this nonsense about different races is just, that's a trick that they're playing on us. Different cultures, fine. But there's no such thing as aliens.
It's another divide and conquer tool.
Yes. So this is the thing, what they're doing here with mixing so-called refugees, right? That they create the refugees, and then they create the solution to the crisis that they put out, which is always serving their agenda. It's not for our benefit at all. Definitely. Not for humanity. I mean, all of us, not just a few. It's really screwing us over as usual.
Of course it is. Well, Robert, I really enjoyed our talk. It's almost an hour of talking, which will take me ages for translating.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's why we're going to have to cut these conversations shorter. I do want you to keep in touch. We have a lot to talk about. I really enjoyed our talk. It gave me a lot of insight, and I feel it's going to do the same for many in my audience. So thank you for that.
My pleasure. I do appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you. I'm going to close with a song you made about the archons. Thank you very much for talking to me. Keep in touch, be strong, happy and healthy, stay safe, and keep on enlightening people in your own way.
Thank you. I will.
Bye-bye.
Head and worship us. Hail the archons. Give your energy to us. We are the archons. Lust, fame, greed, and corruption. That's what we give to you. You are our property. We make you sick and die, slaves for eternity, and still you wonder why. We control you all the time. We are the archons. Doubt, pain, fear, and confusion. That's what we want for you. Possession is real. Possession is real. You are our property. We make you sick and die, slaves for eternity, and still you wonder why. Worship us. Hail the archons. Your energy to us. We are the archons. Lust, fame, greed, and corruption. That's what we give to you.
Sorry, this is only a test.